Alright, now that we wiped our hands clean of that bonus objective, time for the Patreon board. As per usual, patrons in the respective tier get to request things for me to review, and so we'll start with what Arthur asked. While I was given a choice between today's webcomic and doing Skin Deep again, I decided the former because at this point, what else would there be to say about Skin Deep apart from going over plot progression? This, though, is something I haven't heard of, yet certainly has a history to it. The webcomic in question is called Shifters, or rather, Shifters Redux. It first began in 1998 and lasted quite a while. However, at some point, as author and artist, Mary Terry, took full control of the comic, while also forming a team, they ended up going through a reboot which first released in 2007, taking the same plot as the original run but trimming down various subplots and the like, while also making it more dark and less comical. For today's video though, I'm more or less just going to focus on the first 3 chapters, as chapter 4 has barely started, and then whether I do it on my own time or if I end up getting this requested again, I could see about looking at the original run and comparing the reboot to that. But for now, let's see what this webcomic is all about, shall we? Chapter 1, First Seed. Looks like this will mostly be grayscale, which is different. Wonder if this will be more manga influenced or American, since some comics have used that color style. Anyway, we open in Shade City, in the distant future of October 31st, 2034. Being inspired from the works of Cyberpunk 2020, the world has a mix between modern-day buildings and futuristic technology that has integrated well into society. Even time can be told through markings that I assume display time digitally. This person is apparently waiting for someone, and that someone is being chased by future Ambu Black Ops. They are apparently after the necklace she's wearing, and they seem to refer to her as a shifter. Oh, like in the title. I wonder what that means. Well, we're about to find out, as in order to escape, she first uses a device to disable the security cameras briefly and begin an unusual transformation. Shifting fast won't help you. That spirit wake is the weakest I have ever felt. It wouldn't stop a flea. What kind of flea have you ever met? If she's turning into a werebeast, there ain't nothing stopping her, period. Also, it seems some coloring is used, mostly for the eyes. Based on her appearance, I have to guess she's a werecat. Well, she better not die at any point in this story, or else I'll be so sad. Rather than fight, she used her transformation to jump really high instead. The leader of the group orders them to go after her. Look, Karma. Wait, the leader's name is Karma? No, what happened to you, man? You were supposed to be a politician. You were gonna change the world. Think? I don't pay you to think, X. I pay you to kick asses, and the ass I wanted kicked is getting away. Jeez, is X gonna give it to you later? Because you're being a jackass. Meanwhile, the woman who was waiting for her friend earlier, later revealed to be named Farah, our main character, overhears a news broadcast regarding a series of killings involving the Undercity Police Detachment, and that funeral services are being held, which remind her that her friend was going to one earlier. And it turns out that the person being chased is named Alice. So, does Farah know about her special power? Well, one thing is certain, just because this is supposedly more dark than the original, doesn't mean we can't have some funny expressions. Now, you'd think being a cat would mean being faster than guys who only could manage to leap high like she could. Not to mention having a head start while they were still talking back there. But nope, they're already closing in and one of them's got a gun and refuses to take their medication. Oh, and it seems the reason these punks are fast is because they're vampires. Which does explain the masks, as those along with the heavy hoodies can block out the sun. Seems Karma doesn't want X to give it to her through guns, yet he seems to have a heavy obsession with asses for all the times he's saying it. Oh, it's because guns would summon cops. Well, here's an easy fix. Use a silencer. Doesn't matter, I guess, since there's nowhere else to run without jumping down. Thus, he demands the necklace again. You're too weak to protect that thing. Tougher shifters than you have died for it. Don't be like him. Like your brother. And karma is then inflicted onto him as she swipes at his face, knocking the mask off and revealing his face to the sun. And honestly, he looks more like Evil Trace but with a flatter hairstyle. I guess vampires don't get vaporized, they just burn really badly. And starting from page 20, the art style goes from having a grayscale coloring to a traditional colored one. I should also mention that there was a hiatus that, judging from the dates, lasted from 2007 to 2011. And now we can see that Karma has blonde hair while Alice is a white-furred blonde. Well, now that we know that this world has all kinds of future and fantasy elements, I guess we start seeing civilians with more technology on them. And yep, looks like body tattoos can display digital stuff. Farah is approached by someone who, according to the description under the page, was someone who existed in the old comic but wasn't around at this point in the story. She doesn't seem put off by him and actually finds him hot. But he disappears shortly after Alice shows up. They get on the train just as the vampires show up to miss them. Karma is pissed, but is hinted of having more power than we know? Yeah, I'll believe it when he beats the real Karma in a fair fight. Oh look, that guy's got a digital tattoo that displays television broadcasts. That's creepy. Also, it seems Farah doesn't know what Alice really is, given how many times she's lost her footwear. But anyway, the glowing stuff is some kind of neurotechnology, which is something that most cyberpunk universes incorporate, and depending on the material, can see creative use like that guy. Anyway, Alice isn't too fond of the tech herself, thinking it taints your body. It's also possible to have your body reject the stuff, since her mother tried giving her implants in her hair, which, yeah. Anyway, Karma and gang seem to be right behind them, but then they say they lost them? Why? Just because it's a school doesn't mean you can't just wait for them to come out. You know where they are. Well, even they get that much, as they plan to go after Farah to force Alice to them, thus ending the chapter. Chapter 2, A Red Kiss, immediately spoils us the outcome of this chapter. She's going to become a vampire, and Alice will probably die in the end, and I'll be sad that one less cat character exists in the world. Anyway, we see some party goers, plus a cartoon hero cosplayer, as our heroes enter the school and run into someone named Ben, who may or may not be Alice's boyfriend based on her reaction, though he could just be a really good friend of theirs. He seems to know about Alice's secret power since she whispers what happened to her earlier. Can't wait to see what kind of form he takes on later. Anyway, Farah shows us that she is definitely possessive, as she not only wants Alice to herself, but also him as her boy toy. Damn, that's some relation, and that's some character. I like her. Farah's just about the right splice of cocky teen who isn't afraid to experiment with the relations. Not to mention bold as hell. At least we have likable teenagers, and usually they're the most unlikable things to come out of a horror or romance flick. But here, they're pretty cool for who they are. The vampires show up and force their way in through typical vampire magic, which works like the Force, only it's vampires. Why don't you grab a quick drink then? No one will miss him. Are you kidding me? I never drink anything over 40. Ouch. The one vampire who wouldn't want to bite you even if she wanted to. Apparently they have invisibility, or the hallway is supposed to be darker when it doesn't look like it. But Ben can smell the group coming and goes to deal with them. In the meantime, Farah has Alice dressed like a nurse from Silent Hill, or as she calls it, Hushed Bluff, while she herself becomes the almighty Robo-Mummy. Meanwhile, the vampires leave one of their own behind to guard while they go onto the elevator. Ben, who seems to be a shaman it seems, calls upon a butterfly spirit named Butterfly to help them, and oh crap, it got big! The fantasy elements definitely contrast to the cyberpunk world, but it's almost like with the Tales of Xillia games where fantasy and future elements exist together while having a good reason for it. Ben knocks the life out of the guy. Oh, and he is a shifter after all. A werebear at that. Farah gets downgraded to mummy in a cybernetic dress. Aww. And notice the massive blood stain on the floor. But they ignore it since they think it's part of the party, and soon they run into some people they know and heavily dislike. Her name is Holly, and just as how she dresses, she's a snobby biatch. It's my fault Holly picks on you. She's jealous that I hang out with you now instead of her. She didn't used to be like this. Is she a jealous ex, or are you somehow popular in this school and she only wants to be with the popular kids? Anyway, on to the dance party. Or rather, it's a rave! Farah goes to get some punch for the two of them and uh-oh, she runs into Karma. And of course, he doesn't need to work magic on her. She's the one advancing on him. What's this strange sensation? This girl has some kind of odd energy. She smells human, though. It's called hormones, dude. You seem about as clueless as this guy.
I want to have sex with you!
Oh, still don't get it.
Turns out she's not into him. She's more of a techno geek who thinks his eyes were augmented and likes that over cliche vampire tropes, making fun of them as being C-grade Eve Hollows and emo teen sparkle fiction?
This is how we're represented. Unbelievable.
Since Karma failed so much in life, X ends up giving to... Okay. She uses her powers on her. It works. She gets her to go with them, but can't get her to think vampires are awesome. One of them finds Alice to tell her of what they just did, and as they're all moving out, the witch lady, who was letting people in earlier, notices the green neck piece Alice normally has. Only she just picked it off the ground. Seems she knows something. Uh-oh, Blood Moon is out. Is Ganon going to revive all the monsters again? Basically, Alice has to hand over the necklace or else they'll kill Farah. She's reluctant, of course, and as Farah is coming around, Karma starts manhandling her inappropriately. Best hand it over, but uh-oh, the neck piece fell off. And dead. Okay, that doesn't do it right away. But Farah begins to feel something going on. She begins to transform, and she's becoming a Mangekyo awakened Uchiha! I kid, of course. She becomes some kind of monster that's way too big to be a normal shifter. What will come of this? Farah finds herself in the empty void of her mind, the dreamscape, naked, of course, because why not? And she's approached by the guy from the station earlier. Wolf. He tries to explain the situation with her, how this is the dreamscape that serves as a refuge for her mind as it's slowly being attacked by someone. He then reveals himself to be a dream god, which is why he's the only one in color here, and is asking her whether or not she wants to make a pact with her in order to save her life, especially since now the bite wound she got is starting to take effect and begins to consume her. As she is, Wolf tries to get her to grab onto him, and after a brief struggle, she succeeds in reaching him. However, that doesn't change the situation back in the real world. Yeah, she's still a giant demonic hell dog thing, and she doesn't differentiate between friend or foe. Although, she only knocks Alice away while mauling the crap out of this vampire. No, wait! You can keep it! Someone help me! And dead. But wait, if he's a vampire, shouldn't he be able to regenerate? Vampires are immortal unless you drive a stake to the heart, right? Okay, there is eventually an info dump of sorts during one of the break periods that explains how the vampire stuff works. It turns out it's more like a virus that's split into two types. The A type, which treats them like traditional vampires, and B types, which are what these guys are. They don't have the kind of special regeneration power the former has, so yeah, they can die like this. I suppose since this is part of the site it's hosted on, you can get away with providing information if the story isn't able to. It's not like Destiny where I'd have to leave the game to learn this stuff. Everything's here. even if it does take me out of the story for a bit just to learn something that isn't explained. Anyway, since neither Ben or Alice will let them go, they decide that they'll at least cooperate for a bit to wear her down so she'll turn back. Karma surprisingly offers to have him and X be chased, since they're fast and all, while Ben uses his strength in full bear form to keep hold of her when needed. They begin the plan with Karma using luck? Wait a minute. Okay, things go to plan at first, allowing Ben to attack, and jeez, he trying to save her or maul her to death? Either way, it doesn't last long, and Farah ends up biting X nearly in half. Given the way it looks, I was afraid she'd be sliced in half, but nah, just the left arm is sliced off. Now comes the crazy part. Karma leaps up a couple times, his tram ticket falls out of his pocket, but then as he's running toward the gate, luck kicks in as the ticket slides into the slot, which lets them pass through. Oh my god, I just realized who he really is. He's Nagato Kamada, the ultimate lucky student.
It's not much of a talent, but even I have an ultimate level talent, you know? But if I can't win when there's only a 1 in 6 chance of success, then what kind of ultimate talent is that?
This explains so much, yet this also means that he must have went through an identity crisis even after Danganronpa 3. Anyway, they escape just as the entrance collapses on top of them, and crushing Farah as well. Thankfully, she reverted back to normal by the time her friends get to her. Ben decides to take her to his place for the time being before anyone else shows up. They do wonder why the place was so empty, and it turns out this place was under some kind of illusion by the witch lady, who does have powers and either fixes things or brings people back. Either way, the last thing we see for this chapter is her interacting with Wolf, and they seem to know more than they let on, but for now, we're left with questions. Like, why did those vampires want that green thing? What was the blood moon about? Why does Wolf remind me of a Bleach villain? Like, just what is going on here? Kind of feels like watching Yu-Gi-Oh! Vrains. There's definitely much to admire in the setting, but a lot of time is spent on story development, which is fine, but even UberQuest had chances to world build during the plot, and even now there's some things about the plot I just don't get that's either explained later or not. The characters themselves are alright so far. Farah's pretty fun, Alice seems to be like a cool cat, but I feel like I've only scratched the surface of them and will either have to read the old version of the story or wait it out and hope it picks up, because, well, it seems we have more story content than we do character content. I am at least curious about the progression the author made in regards to making this comic, just as I am with Two Kinds, and wish to see any appeal it has on readers, because so far I have the feeling of teen romance story, but we'll see. I'll see more about this as we go, but otherwise, it's not bad, but depending on things, it might just not be something for me. It might be for you, but that's up to you to decide. Next time, though, we'll be looking at something that somehow spawned a series. Until next time.